Each day brings growing desperation at Kabul International Airport's perimeter walls.
US.
At this entrance gate, British soldiers try to maintain order amongst frantic civilians, anxious to make evacuation flights out, as Taliban soldiers, victors in this war, watch. British troops are here to process people who have been approved for flights out, but all civilians who show up must first pass through Taliban checkpoints to get here.
They attack on my sister with a gun. And again, that the American soldier stopped here and carried us in here. Now we don't know what should we do. When we go out of here.
This young woman fled the western city of Herat when Taliban fighters took over and tried to force her to marry one of them.
And you're a doctor.
I'm a doctor. Because just now, even the Taliban came to Herat city, I cannot even drive. I sold my car.
Like so many who come here, she has no visa and no flight out.
Do you think you're going to be able to get on an airplane?
I don't know.
Where do you want to go?
We don't know. Just I want to go there, be safe. Just fear Allah.
You don't feel safe?
No.
People beg to be allowed in, aware that each day is one closer to the end of this eventual evacuation. The fear of being left behind is palpable.
For all the crowds that show up here, you've got the lucky ones over here who have visas and paperwork, and the soldiers are able to help them. They're able to show them into the airport, but you also have the unlucky ones, so many of them, just like these families here, with newborn babies arguing with the soldiers trying to get them to move over so they can separate those who get to leave the country and those who don't. And all the while, those gunshots that you hear in the background just beyond these vehicles, that's Taliban checkpoints, and they're firing off their rounds.
The emergency evacuation of Americans and their allies from Afghanistan in the midst of a sweeping Taliban takeover of the country continues. There are now 5,000 American troops at the Kabul airport to ensure embassy staff and Afghans who worked for the US and allies make it out safely. Amidst the chaos, tens of thousands more who once worked with and for Americans now fear being left behind and at the mercy of a vengeful Taliban. In Washington, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Mark Milley briefed President Biden at the White House. They spoke at the Pentagon later in the day.
It's obvious we're not close to where we want to be in terms of getting the numbers through.
Austin was asked if he could send forces into Kabul city to help the passage of people to the airport.
Well, we're going to do everything we can to continue to try to deconflict and create passageways for them to get to the airfield. I don't have the capability to go out and extend operations currently into Kabul. And where do you take that? I mean, how far can you extend into Kabul, you know, and how long does it take to flow those forces in to be able to do that?
Milley defended the intelligence estimates on the stability of the Afghan government and security forces, which forecast one scenario of a total collapse in months or even weeks.
I did not, nor did anyone else, see a collapse of an army that size in 11 days. There'll be many postmortems on this topic, but right now is not that time.
Elsewhere in Afghanistan, some initial acts of resistance to Taliban rule were met with swift violence. Former President Ashraf Ghani, who fled the country on Sunday, hours before the Taliban swept into the capital, appeared for the first time in a video sent from the United Arab Emirates. Ghani denied reports that he had over 150 million in cash in bags when he left. He also addressed the many failures that led to the Taliban takeover.
We failed in politics, but which politics? It was the failure of the Taliban leadership. That was the failure of government leadership, and also the political failure of the international allies.
The Taliban says it won't seek revenge against those who worked for Ghani's government, including members of the Afghan National Security Forces. Most here don't believe them. This family of 4 boys and their mother lost their father, they told the NewsHour, just a month before, a high-ranking helicopter pilot killed fighting in the war. They have visas for another country, but with the commercial airport shut, no way out. The Taliban knows me, the eldest son tells us. They know us all. For professional, educated women here, like the doctor, life is now divided between before and after the Taliban came to town.
In the past, when the Taliban was not here, we have تقريبا almost good life. I worked, I could work, I could drive, but now even I cannot go out of home without any man. Even within these 2-3 weeks, we are so bad life. We had a good life. That was good for us.
And what do you think is going to happen to you? What do you think will happen in the future?
I don't know. If I go out of here, I'm too sure that they find us. I'm certain I had a good work in Herat City. I was so famous in Herat City, but because of just my life, I should leave out of it.
And I mean, what are you going to do right now? What are you going to do?
Right, I don't know.
A British commander went to talk to the Taliban fighters, trying to ease the tension. But his troops were still forced to turn back those not on the list for evacuation, including the family of the pilot killed in action. Nothing could ease the painful indignity of being pushed back behind the razor wire, back towards the Taliban.